All right, welcome back. So the next thing now is CSS syntax. Previously, I told you what syntax is. Syntax means how a thing is being done. I use explaining when we started HTML, like when I told you it's syntax and all those things. I use like someone that wants to travel from Lagos to Enugu. If you want to travel from Lagos to Enugu, maybe from your house, you have to go to your like the procedures on the procedures you follow to do something. That's syntax. You get. So CSS have its own syntax too, and that's the first thing we'll be looking at because if you don't understand the syntax, you won't be able to apply it. So now they say a CSS rule consists of a selector and a declaration block. Don't worry about the Oyibo. We are going to break it down. For example, now a selector. H1 now, for example, is a selector. You understand? Now, for example, let's assume that you have a H1 in your VS Code or in your project, and that's our first H1. This is my first website. Now it's okay. If I want to style this thing now, how do I style it? And I told you that elements, you can give them class, you can give them ID. You understand? So the name of the element like H1, the class name, and the ID name, these are selectors. They are known as selectors. You understand? Because you select them to style them. Now, for example, now this from this our on this screen now, there is H1. They indicated it as a selection. Now, I want to give it a color. That color now, what color means is like the color you are giving it now, the color and the value of that color, they are known as declaration. You get, they are known as declaration. Then if you want to break down the declaration into two, you can say, okay, color is a property. What property am I giving to this selector? I want to give it a property of color. Then that color, what value, what kind of color do I want to give it? I want to give it blue. You understand? So this is what they mean here. So the color and the blue, they are all declaration combined. But if you want to break it down, the color is a property and the blue is a value. Now the second one now is font size is 12 pixels. Now when you combine these two things together, the font size and the 12 pixels, they are known as declaration. But if you want to break it down to understand, the font size is a property and the 12 pixels is a value. Okay, let's read from their own explanation. They say the selector points to the HTML element you want to style. I just explained it to you. Like that selector is I want to select this thing. It's just like you came to you came to a class like it's okay. I want to select somebody and sponsor the person and give the person scholarship. You get when you call the person's name, that name you called now is the selector. You understand? Maybe I come to your a class and say, okay, who is Rita? Rita, come. I selected her out of the multitude, out of the class. I want to do something for her. I want to give her a scholarship or I want to pay her school fees. So Rita is now, I selected her by her name. You understand? So you can select elements either by their name, you can select them by their class, or you can select them by their ID. A case of selecting them by their name is whenever maybe they are not much, like you just okay, let me just select the name. But if a case whereby there are many H1 or there are many H1 in your code, you just need to say, okay, let me give it a class and select that class or ID uniquely and do what I want to do with it. The second one, they say the declaration block contains one or more declarations separated by semicolons. You can see it, like I told you. Now, each declaration includes a CSS property and the name value. I've explained this one. Multiple CSS declaration are separated with semicolons and declaration. You see subsequently as we advance. So that will be all for the syntax. The example above that you showed, they explained it here. They say P is a selector. For this example now, let me highlight it. Can you see it? P is a selector. They selected P element, then they gave it a property of color, and that property they assigned a value of red to it. Now in a text align, it's another property. They assigned a value to it. You understand? Don't worry about these properties and their value. By the time we start working, like you'll be able to like understand what this is. So that will be all like for this video. The next video we'll be looking at the selector properly. We are going to look at there are different kinds of selector. So in this next video, we are going to look at these selectors.